Hey guys, Buff Elgato here. I wanted to try something new, something that means a lot to me, and maybe it's something that means a lot to some of you, or even if you didn't get brought up during this time or experience these things, maybe you just like to hear the stories. But the reason why I'm trying something new is because we hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I want to thank each and every one of you for getting me this far. I really didn't expect to do this many people with my videos, getting this many people as subscribing to my channel, but I want to thank each and every one of you and for the comments and things like that. And for you guys, I want to try something new, and I still will be doing how-to videos and gaming videos and things like that, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the time that I grew up, and maybe some of you shared the same experiences and stories that I'm about to tell. I want to break this up into different categories. So for instance, what I'm going to talk about today is what it was like growing up, like maybe during the summer when you're not at school. We'll do a school video another day. But I just wanted to see if any of you guys remember some of the things I'm talking about growing up. Maybe if you were born in the 70s or born in the 80s. And that was basically, and this is in the South, so if any of you are born up north, if you did things differently, please let me know in the comments. If you're from another country and you've grown up different, or you are from the South and you grew up differently, let me know. But one thing that I really experienced growing up is you'd wake up anywhere between, who knows, like 6 or 8. Sleep until 9 was just really sleeping in. You might catch some words from your mother if you slept until 9. But during the summer, you'd wake up pretty early, and I don't know why all parents were like this. There was no social media. I don't know who taught them this. There was no movies or TV shows that said this. It was just kind of a collective, just everybody was like this. I'm not sure if it was from their generation before or what, but basically I would wake up early in the morning and my mother would immediately kick me out of the house. She's like, you gotta get out. Get out, you're not allowed in. And a lot of times I would go out before I could even put my shoes on, and I'd be barefoot. And while I was gone, my mom would stay indoors and she would clean the house, mopping the floors, vacuuming. God forbid you go in and step on her floors. But anyway, you were forced to be outside. And so were your friends. And for me, anyway, I was not allowed in any of my friends' houses. They weren't allowed in mine. Not until at least it got dark. You know, they might invite me for dinner or to stay the night or to watch TV or something. But during the day, no. You're not allowed to go into anybody's house. That's just how it was back then. And we would jump on our bikes. We usually had BMX bikes. And we would ride up and down the road, and traffic wasn't a bad thing back then. We would play games like roll-a-bat or baseball or kickball, and we'd play in the road. And it was very rare a car would come down the street, and if it did, we'd just yell car and move off the street, and then after they passed, we'd get back on and play. And we played a lot of things like that, but we'd ride bikes and we'd find boards, like pieces of plywood or anything, and we would just lean it up on center blocks and jump over it, maybe jumping over our own friends, or jump in the ditches, or put it on a stump and jump a stump. The bigger the ramp, the better. The higher we got, the better. And we learned how to adjust our handlebars to make them stick straight up, and raise the seat, and try to learn how to bunny hop and things like that. And we would race each other, and a lot of our roads that we played on were dirt. So being barefoot, our feet would just become absolutely filthy. And we'd play in creeks and play military and dress in camouflage, and we'd build tree houses, which more than likely every one of us has probably fallen out of at some point. We'd build clubhouses on the ground. We had ice cream trucks in the neighborhood. We would get hurt a lot, we'd get hurt a lot, but we sucked it up. We'd fall off our bike all the time, get road rash, get scraped up. We'd jump on trampolines and about broke our necks. And when we got hungry, we had to find food. We would have honeysuckle, blackberries, wild blueberry bushes somewhere in the neighborhood. Friends' parents, they would have fruit trees. We'd go and pick pears or apples, or we'd go into the garden and we'd pull up a turnip or a carrot or radish or something. We picked strawberries. We would find food. And when we got thirsty, we would drink from a hose. You turn the hose on to let all that hot water out of the hose, let it spray out, flush out all the ants, things like that. And once that water got cold, that was some of the best water you could drink. If we got too hot, we'd slide down the slip and slide, or we'd play in the creek, or we would just ride our bike real fast and start letting it glide so we didn't have to pedal and let the hot summer breeze blow in our face, And when we're feeling a little wild, we'll put a little playing card on our bike, on our spokes, to make it sound like a motorcycle. And we would throw oyster shells, clam shells, rocks, whatever it may be that we come across. We'd throw stuff, and we shoot BB guns and things like that. And we just would play all day. Different games, 7-Up, Red Rover, basketball, just many different games. And all we needed was each other. And no matter how far away you were from your house, you would always hear your parents call you when it was time for supper. When it was 5 p.m. or whatever, they would come out and they would yell your name, and you would yell back, "I'm coming," and you would get on your bike and you would race home, and you would go in and eat, or your friends would go in and eat. And there was times where you'd go in and you had no choice. You had no choice of what was being cooked, but usually it was a really good full course dinner by your mother or whoever raised you, your aunt or grandmother or whoever. But it was usually fresh stuff out of the garden, and meat, homemade biscuits, vegetables, things like that, cornbread, sweet tea perhaps. Maybe it was sun tea, left out in the sun. But sometimes you would eat and then you would immediately take a shower, get in your pajamas, and sit around and watch TV. But most of the time, you're right back outside. Your friend, his dad might come out, his mom or dad might come out and call them first. They would go in and they would say, "Hey, I'll be back out in 30 minutes. And you just played around their yard, kicking rocks or throwing acorns or whatever it may be. And you just kind of play around for 30 minutes, and they'll come out from eating dinner and you would continue playing. Or, vice versa, you'd get called down to your house, first. But whoever it was, you'd always hear your parents call you, no matter how far away. You could be 4 miles away, you could hear your mom call your name. And if they were coming to pick you up from somewhere, it was just a much quieter time back then. There wasn't as much traffic and stuff. You could hear your parents' engine in their car. You could decipher which engine was theirs. You could hear their motor for miles away, and you could say, "Oh, I can hear my parents coming. That's my parents' car. I can tell." You just knew that sound, kind of like you would know the sound of your own collar on your dog running around, or your own bark of your dog or something. You just knew that sound. But we would play until the street light came up. If the street light came on, that was the biggest fear. Your stomach would drop if the street light came on and you knew it would take you longer than 5 or 10 minutes to get home. As soon as that street light came on, it's like, oh crap, no matter what you were doing, you dropped what you were doing. You jumped on your bike and you pedaled as fast as you could home. You had to be home when that street light came on. And you'd run inside, and Of course, you'd probably get yelled at because the street light came on. But you use the excuse, you don't have a watch, you know what time it was, and you made it home 30 seconds after it came on, but you'd still probably get yelled at, and you'd watch TV, and back then you had like 3 channels of television programs. If it rained, maybe 4, but everybody watched the same show. Each night of the week was a popular TV show, and you watched it with the family. And the next day, you and your friends, you all talked about it. You didn't have to call each other and ask them if they were watching it. You just knew everybody that was in your life was watching that same TV show. And it was all family shows, too. All of it was all taught a lesson. They're very educational, very funny, nothing over the top. Everybody could watch it and enjoy it. And if you're lucky, you'd have some kind of movie presentation come on. And it could be some blockbuster movie that you've been waiting to come to TV. Or it would be something for the kids, the Berenstain Bears, Garfield, Peanuts. But we never called it Peanuts. We called it Charlie Brown, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, anything like that. Winnie the Pooh. There was so many movies that would come on at 8 o'clock that the kids had to watch, and you'd sit there and you'd watch them. And you had your old Boise's or your little what were they called, pizzerias or different chips, and you'd sit around and you'd watch these shows until it was bedtime. And at 10 o'clock, they would actually come on TV and say, hey, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Because our parents were very neglectful. If you think about it, they were very neglectful. They'd kick you out. They wouldn't see you again until 12 hours later. And we were doing everything. Just running around, digging holes and jumping holes and just risking our life every day, all day. And your parents had no idea where you were for 12 hours a day. So at 10 o'clock, all the TV channels had to remind them, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? To remind them, oh, maybe my kids aren't in the next room. Let me go and drive up and down the neighborhood, see if I can find them, to see if their arms are broke or if they're even alive, and then at about 1 or 2 o'clock at night, if you stayed up that late, the TVs shut off. And I mean that for real. The news would play. They would say good night. They'd play the Star Spangled Banner. The TV would hum, being, taken off network or whatever, shut down for about 2 minutes, and then it would just turn into static. And it would be like that until like 5 or 6 in the morning when the news came back on. You had no TV at night. And that's just the way things were. And if you were lucky, you got to stay inside some days. And your mom would play records or 8-track tapes. But most of the time, you were out living the best life, not knowing that we were being neglected, having to find our own food and water sources. But still, when we look back at it, it was the best time of our lives. But at the same time, we don't want to do that to our children. Even though we always think back and say, man, those were the best times, we as parents now seem like we can't let our children out of our sight to go outside and play for more than an hour, much less 12 hours, without us knowing. But anyway, guys, that was just how it was where I grew up. Let me know how it was where you grew up. If you guys like videos like this, I will post plenty more. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for those 5,000 subs. Guys, please share, please like. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.